Meantime, the Army's Bowe Bergdahl, who apparently wandered away from his base in Afghanistan, resulting in 5 years as an enemy captive, now is wandering San Antonio. He is supervised. This is all part of his so-called reintegration. You remember this video? The Bergdahl end of this exchange that ended in his imprisonment May 31st. The Army says that during his jaunts through San Antonio, Bergdahl sometimes wears his uniform, sometimes not. Has even been recognized and had his hand shaken by members of the public. Remember, members of Bergdahl's unit have described him quite clearly as a deserter, but the Army says for now his recovery from captivity is the #1 priority. Terry Lyles is with me now from Miami. We've talked to Terry before about this Bergdahl case. He is a psychologist and combat stress coach. So Terry Lyles, welcome back. Terry Lyles, can you hear me? I'm going to try this one more time. Terry Lyles, it's Brooke on CNN. You got me? Okay, we're going to move along. We're going to come back. We're going to fix that. Live TV. What are you going to do? And let's go back. I think we have him now. Terry Lyles in Miami talking about Bowe Bergdahl. He's now walking out and about in public, being recognized by some civilians in San Antonio where he's being treated. Terry Lyles, let's try this again. Can you hear me?
I can hear you now. It's also raining and flooding in Miami, so you know what? We got water.
We were just talking about Arthur. There you go. We can have you reporting on the weather, but we won't.
I know.
Let me just begin by asking you, when it comes to the case of Bowe Bergdahl and him walking about, going to restaurants, going to supermarkets, is this standard procedure, what they're doing with him, taking him out in public?
It is, and it's a slow process because, I mean, and we don't really know what he's been through. We're not really privy to his exact debriefing, examples that he's been through in protocol. But they're trying to help him to acclimate. So any disaster I've ever gone to and come back home from, it's slow. He's been in captivity for 5 years, so I'm sure they're really trying to be very, very careful and take it slowly to make sure that he acclimates without having any reoccurrences mentally, emotionally, or physically of what happened.
Here's what's interesting, because according to our reporting, he's been out and about sometimes in civilian clothing, sometimes in his uniform. And in those cases, some people have actually recognized Bowe Bergdahl. They've walked up to him. They've offered their hand, shaken his hand. Psychologically, I'm curious, Terry, what happens if someone comes up to him and says, hey, you deserted?
Yeah, and like we've talked before, I mean, I try to report on the human side of it, and like you're saying, I mean, he's in, uniform one day, perhaps civilian clothes another day. I think they're trying to also help him to acclimate that he's a returning soldier. He also has a life that he's acclimating to here. But if someone approaches him, I mean, all he can do is just try to just receive that, and I'm sure they'll be briefing him on how to absorb that kind of information and process it, because whether he's guilty, not guilty, that'll all come up later, and everyone's going to have an opinion, but that's part of the thick-skinned training he's going to have to go through to really acclimate. This
whole process, we're told by an Army official, it'll actually be over in just a couple of weeks. Does that seem short for you? I mean, he was with the Taliban for 5 years.
Well, I mean, typically, he's been in the States for about 10 days, and he was in Germany for a period of time, so probably when it's all over, it'll probably be 4 to 6 weeks. And that's probably good enough to get him started. But again, we don't really know the depth of what he's really going through. And every case is different. So they're going to take it very carefully, step by step, to see how he's adapting and acclimating to his environment. And they won't let him go until he's ready, I'm sure.
Okay. Terry Lyles, psychologist and combat stress coach, as always, thank you. And thank you for rolling with the punches today. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you.